angels, and welcome to episode 27 of the PG Podcast. It's so good to be in your earbuds or on YouTube with you today. I hope that your day has been a great one so far. This episode is going to be fantastic. It's number 27, and it's all about how to get a grip. It's for those of you who are stuck right now in situations that you have no control of, or your life is just spiraling out of control, or you feel like that circumstances are just beyond your reach of being able to fix it. If you're there, then I'm here to help you. I have 4 short tips that's going to make such a big difference in your mind and the way you see your situation. It's going to cause you to get control of what right now is out of control. So, have you ever noticed how everybody has a how rough it is story? Yeah, everybody's got one. How tough life is. The other day I was telling somebody about, all my traveling, all the stuff that's going on. We have a parade, we have a conference, we have a youth meeting, we have all those things. We're painting the church, we're trying to get with the architects, a million things. And they said, but you have no kids. And I guess what they were trying to say is that kids really are more than all of those things, but really, in my life and mine, it ain't that way, girl. Everybody's got a how tough it is story. And to each person, their load in life, their bundle of stuff, their immediate circumstances are bigger, harder, tougher, and more packed in than everybody else. To the mom of 2 kids, she might have 0 time, but I know I have a friend who has 8 kids. I wonder how much time she has. So it's not really about how many kids you have, whether you're a working mom or stay-at-home mom, whether you're an entrepreneur or pastor or whatever it is you are. Your load in life, all of those things sometimes could get you to the point where you think nobody else in the world has it as tough or as packed as you do. We all, like I always say, have 24 hours in a day to work with. Nobody gets more than that. We all get the same amount. What we do with it is up to us. So today, I want to teach you a few rapid fire, actionable, do it today kind of tips of advice that will help you. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but these are the things that help me get the uncontrollable things under control in my own life. So if you're ready, let's dive in. One of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, he separated all the circumstances in life into 2 circles. One he called the circle of concern, and one he called the circle of influence. So in the circle of concern, which I don't like that name, but the circle of concern are all those things that you have no control over in life. Things like the weather, things like most of the time sickness and illness in your family, things like the stock market, things like the government. Yes, you have a vote and yes, you have a dollar, but you really can't very much, in most cases, influence those things. They are out of your control. And those things may make up 99% of what your life is, because your economic status is probably as a result of the way the country is going, lack of jobs or income deficiencies or whatever it is. But that's 99% of it. Those things are in a circle that you can't change. Then there is the other circle, which is the circle of influence. Those things are the things in your life that you do have some control over, or the things that you can impact or have influence on. The lives of your children, your friends, your family, your job, the things you eat, those kinds of things you do have control over, and we call those things the circle of influence. So the first tip, if your life is spiraling out of control, about how to fix it first, is to don't waste time in that circle of the uncontrollable. You don't have authority to do that. You're worrying about money and the economy is not gonna fix it. But work now in the places where you do have some influence. Work where you are able to make a difference in the situation right now. Actionable, proactive things today. That's my first tip. This is like the children of Israel when they stood at the Red Sea. None of them, by looking at the sea, could change it. None of them, by looking at the Egyptian army behind, could change it. Worrying about it didn't help. None of that helped. Not even Moses, by looking at it and worrying about it, could help. But he had to do something. In his sphere of influence, according to the Word of God, God said to him, stretch your hand out. That's what Moses was able to do. The other people could also do something. What did they have to do? Move. move. And in our lives, it's the same way. When you get a diagnosis from the doctor that your child is ill, and that it's one of my cousins called me the other day and said that their daughter was ill, and that they were keeping her in the hospital and blah blah blah. I got on the phone and I'm like, what are you doing? Did you ask this question, that question, the other question? And she was like, what? This is something that I learned the hard way. You cannot depend on anybody to completely take care of what matters to you, especially in cases of medicine. You know how many people didn't get the care they need because they never asked the questions they needed to ask? Because you never know what happens in a shift change. You never know when nurses switch and doctors switch, if they're taking care of your loved ones properly. I know countless stories of moms whose kids were in comas, and they stood there, or they took care of themselves while they watched over their children. And one slip, one decision made the difference between that child living and dying. You've got to be proactive today in the sphere that you do have influence. Where you can't change cancer, you can pray. Where you can't change the job situation, you can earn a living somehow. You do what you can do in your sphere of influence. My second tip, you have control over one thing. If everything else in the world goes haywire, you can find control over one thing, and guess what that is? You. Yes, you. It is the only thing in the whole world that you have 100% control of. Yourself, how you think, how you perceive, your attitude towards something. And granted, sometimes you just can't have a good attitude about some stuff. Some people really test you on the attitude meter and you are struggling. But you can still choose. You can still choose to find things that are good for you, and remove yourself from situations where that frustration is just happening over and over again. And get on YouTube and watch more PG Girl podcasts, because it gives you the motivation you need to get up out of bed and to do what God called you to do and be who He called you to be. That's the second thing. I need you to always know you can always control you. Even if you can't control the situations, you can control how you respond to the situation. You can choose to lie down and cry yourself to depression. You can choose to turn the lights off and sleep your life away, or you can get up, change your attitude, change your perspective, put your eyes on Jesus, and make things work for you. This next point is gonna change everything if it gets into your spirit, and it's this. You might be able to only influence 1%, but that 1% will change everything. I've seen it happen a million times. When I first came to New York and had no place to do church, I would literally have church wherever. I remember walking into a bar and asking if they would let me do church. That's how desperate I was to start what God asked me to do. And you might say, a bar? Look, I don't really care what anybody said. All I knew is that I came here to start a church. And so I asked everywhere, and everybody said no. Even churches said no, and halls said no, and coffee shops said no. And I remember being at home and asking God, where do I go? My living room can't hold anybody. I don't know, do I go out in the streets and just start preaching? How do I even begin to plant a church? I had never seen it done from scratch. I'd never taken a course or had anybody tell me what to do. I had no guidance and leadership to say, do this, do that, take these steps. That's part of the reason why we started this group, so that you don't have to do this by yourself. I've been there, and I can help you if that's what you want to do, if that's what you're called to do. But that 1% of belief, even when I could find nowhere to be, that belief that if God called me, then it really didn't matter what anything looked like. This was going to work out. I was going to find that spot. And so I found a little karate studio. There was a Buddha in my karate studio. He was like big, like this. And he was a statue. And every Sunday when I came to church, I had to take a tablecloth and cover the Buddha. So now in my church, the older people have a saying, cover the Buddha. It means get rid of the enemy before the service starts. because we would have to do that, and then we moved to a living room, and then we moved to another little place. But always the perspective was, and I'll never forget it, the day we had to move from the studio to the living room, a lot of people saw it as a step down, and I wanted to be discouraged, but this is what I had to do. My attitude had to change. I had to say, you know what, if God's putting me through a transition, it's because He's leading me to something bigger. Something bigger, something bigger. When they closed my building down, do you know they did that? Yes, they closed my building down. Guess what I did? Pitched a tent in the yard, and we had church in the tent. Why? Something bigger. God never demotes His people. I gotta tell you that. And if it looks like you're stepping backward, it's only because He's pulling you back like an arrow to shoot you forward. So be okay with that. Let your perspective, that 1% that you have control of, will change the entire landscape. It's like putting on sunglasses and finally being able to see where the sun was in your eye before. So don't be discouraged. Just take that 1% that you can change, which is you, and look at it through the eyes of the Spirit, and look at it through positive lenses, and look at it as God will never bring you this far and then let you go, and then the whole landscape changes. Everything changes. The last thing I want to tell you about getting a grip is this. Your response to whatever stimulus comes your way is going to determine your next step. So whatever happens to you in life, you get cut off on the highway, your response to that is going to determine the next step you take. If your response is a cuss word and anger, if you let yourself rail up, then your next step is going to be an attempt to try to deflate or get your mind in a better place. I know some of you cussing all along on praise and worship music blasting in the car. I get you. Hopefully that's not you, preacher girl. But then what if your response to somebody cutting you off is, thank you, Father, that I'm safe? You know, or thank God I'm not a lousy driver like that. You know, whatever it is. Or you know, just focus on what it is. Your next step always depends on your response to whatever stimulus the devil or the Lord throws your way, or life. And if the enemy sees that you fly off the handle, you come unglued, and you lose your grip so easily, then guess what? He'll keep sending them, one thing after the other, to cause you to fly off the handle and lose your grip on life. You know what? That's not what God has in store for you. You know, this is something that I want to always remember in my heart, and I want you to remember too, that if life gives us things that we cannot control, God always is in control. He always has it. When I was a little kid, my dad used to have us walk on him, like massage him. But when we were small, we used to have to walk on him. And we used to try to creep past his room, because we had to go through his room to get out of our room. We used to try to creep past his room without waking him, because if he heard us, he'd be like, Sharo, walk on those legs. And I'm like, oh. Because for the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'd be stuck going back and forth, just walking and walking. It was horrible. Anyway, don't tell him I said that. But while I was doing that massage by foot, there was a little sign on the wall in my parents' bedroom, and it was what we all know as the prayer of serenity. Have you ever heard it? God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, it's the only place I've ever seen that prayer. I know most of you know it, but it's exactly what I'm trying to say today. That God will keep your mind in peace if you understand that the things you cannot change are in His hands. And the things you can, it's your responsibility to change them. So I hope that helps some of you get a grip today. And since I don't know if we're there yet, but we're probably close to our 1,000 PG Insider, and today we want to give away something extra special. A few weeks ago we gave away a planner. Well, today you can win the PG Journal. Yes, it's the PG Insider Journal. It's just line pages inside where you could put your thoughts, your prayers, your songs, whatever it is you like writing, your devotions in the morning. And it's especially for one of you who shares this video. Actually, let's do it this way. If you can get someone to subscribe to the YouTube channel that's not there yet, then your name goes in a drawing for the PG Journal. All they have to say is, Maria, invited me. That's it. Well, I love you. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and jump into the chat on Facebook, into the community, and let me know that you're there. I long to hear from you, and I long to see you. I hope we get to do that soon. And remember, if God called you, then nobody can uncall you.